Behind the camera.
Right, as the other filming didn't come out very well, I'll take you through it again and just try and show you how everything is done. The first thing we put on is the sissy bar. Now, to prepare the sissy bar, what you have to do is cut off the helmet locks on both sides, and then in behind this piece here there is a mounting which you have to cut off flush with the underside of this piece here to allow for the bracket. You probably won't be able to really see it. It's up in behind there. Hang on a sec. Up in behind there, there's a little flange that sticks out about 5mm. You have to cut that off flush with the rest, and you can see here where we've cut off the helmet locks to allow for that to fit in there. The first bolts you put in are these 6mm ones here, which you'll find supplied in the kit you've got. You have a look in under there, you can see them. It's these ones here with a big flat washer on them. Yep. Put those in first on both sides. Right, you don't have to answer, Moggy.
Sorry.
Put those in first, then moving on to the 8mm cap screws. You put the 8mm cap screws in there. I find it quite easy to line up. Try and move that a little bit slower, otherwise it's going to be all blurring all over the place. What I find it's easiest to do is to put a screwdriver, put a small stubby through any of these holes here, and use that to line up these holes here. When you've got those holes lined up, push the stubby through there to get them all nice and clearly lined up, and then put your 8mm cap screws in and knock them in using the end of a Phillips screwdriver like that. Once you've done those and those, you move on to these ones here. Right, now what you do is you don't put any of the other bolts in yet at this point, except you can put the 16mm one in the centre. It's probably best to put that one in straight after you put the screwdrivers in here, so that just in case you have to move it around a bit, you don't end up scratching that. So put the big 16mm through, and you'll notice we don't put a washer on that side. That's to allow more clearance for the prop shaft. Right, so we then move on to these ones. Line up the frame using any trick you like. You can put a piece of steel in the end of these. You can lever it from here. Whatever you have to do, and I find it easiest to use a T-bar Allen key to do it. Line those up, screw those in. Leave everything loose for the time being. Right, once we've done that side, you go around that way. We move on to this side, and we do the same here. We line this one up. Again, we can stick a screwdriver in either of these holes to help lever it up and down and all over the place to get it into position. You'll have to be use a bit of ingenuity on that one to work out how to do that. Make sure you cover everything with masking tape if you've already sprayed it. Now then, once you've done those ones, you move on to any of these basically. These ones, you can get those, you can put those in. You'll find at the back there, you'll find a plate with captive nuts on it that's joined to the solenoid that lifts that works the valve decompression lifter. You may have to move that around. Sometimes that'll end up moving and getting into an awkward position that you can't get the screws in. Again, put your Allen key in first and make sure that the holes line up. Then get these screws, put ththese screws in, put them in, but leave them loose. You've got a screw inside here. You use, again, it's one of the short 8mm cap screws, and you use a large washer on it. This one here, the same screw, but you use a small washer on it. When you put the 16mm one through the middle, put the big washer on this side. Go around the other side again. So now we put this front one in. Same rules apply. You've got to line up they've got a captive plate at the back that is free to move around and sometimes will. You've got to move that into position. Again, get that one to screw in, but leave him nice and loose. So that should then leave you just these ones, which the way we do those, quite straightforward. Little trick that we've learned, we use a block of wood to line these up. We get a block of wood, we put the block of wood up against the frame like that to protect it. Then we loosen the G-clamp off first, helps. Do it one side at a time. Put the G-clamp onto the frame like that. Tighten it up nice and tight, keeping it out of the way of the hole. Tighten it up nice and tight, and it helps if you've got something like this. You don't need it, but it does help. If you've got something like that with a taper on it that fits in the hole, you can actually bang that into the hole and it just pulls everything into line, make sure that everything's lined up. Once you've got the holes lined up so you can see right through them, put the 12mm bolts in with a big flat washer on the end and hammer them in. Once you've got those in, flat washer on the back and a 12mm nut, nylock nut. And you just basically do exactly the same round the other side to fit the other side on. Okay, so once you've got all of those in, you're just left with one, and that's this one here. The one that joins the battery box to the frame. Again, what I found with this particular one, it varies a little bit depending on how well you've centered the drilling of those ones up there. But what I did was I put a bar in here and I just levered it forward slightly till it was absolutely central in the hole, and then screwed that screw in, and then I screwed the other screws in. These screws are just from the bits you took off the bike when you started. The other thing which needs to be pointed out is how we modified the battery box. Again, I did all this, but unfortunately the camera that I did it with was rubbish, so we're going to have to do all this again. What we've had to do is, if you see here, in here, we've let this piece of plate in, and where we've let this piece of plate in, you have to cut about 5mm off the piece that's in here, the spacer that's in there, that's actually joined to this casing. What we've also done is we've cut the bracketry off, all the superfluous bracketry off of these bits, and we've rounded them round so that they miss the frame. You can see how close it is at the frame at the top here. If you come in from here, you can see how close it gets to the frame, so you've got to skim that, you've got to grind that away quite reasonably, and you can see, if you look in from this side, you can see how the other side's been ground down. Come in from here.
Okay, I will consider.
You can see where the other side, how we've ground the other side down.
Yeah.
And same for the top there, we've cut all the superfluous bracketry off so that you can fit it in around the frame. If you go around the other side and just just film this one here so they can see how we've cut that one down as well.
Okay, I think I've got that one there.
That there.
All you need to do is show that top one again. I think that's going to be the one that catches it. If you can shine the torch in on this, I'll try and...
Because you can see that's quite close, even with all the with it all cut away.
Trying to see that. There we go. That's the piece that we chopped.
Cut about 5mm off that.
Yeah.
Right, I think that's just about it for that particular function, for that particular part. Okay.
Finish.